On June 30th of 2021, at about 10:30 p.m., police were called to an absolutely gruesome scene in Houston, Texas. An entire family had been shot, and most of them were murdered, besides a heroic 10-year-old. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also snowboarding. Oh yeah, I got this flip. Cowabunga! But anyway, today we're going over the case of a very brave young girl who did what she had to do to survive. The year is 2021, and 29-year-old Danyavia Lagway and her longtime on-and-off husband, 35-year-old Gregory Carhey, are living in Houston, Texas, with their 4 children they have together. We have the eldest, a 10-year-old girl named Lyric, the second child, a 9-year-old boy, the third child, a 6-year-old girl named Harmony, and also a 1-year-old baby boy. Now, Danyavia and Gregory's relationship is a bit up and down, and while sometimes they'd get along, other times they wouldn't. This would cause both of them to at times look for other people to give them the attention or love that they needed. On Wednesday, June 30th of 2021, the entire family, besides the 9-year-old boy, were at their apartment in the 12,100 block of Fondren. It was a seemingly normal night, except for the fact that it wasn't. Unbeknownst to everyone, for many of them, this would be their last one. At about 10:30 p.m., the whole family was awake when all of a sudden a knock came at the door. Now, neither of the parents were expecting any company, and so they thought this to be odd. The father, Gregory, opened the door holding their 1-year-old baby, and he immediately knew everything was about to turn upside down. An intruder with a gun pointed directly at Gregory was at the front door, and so he barged his way inside. He ordered all of the family members to line up on the couch, and he shot them in the head one by one. When he was done, he grabbed the 1-year-old boy by his hair and threw him across the room. This intruder then ransacked the house and shortly after left. Little did he know that one of those people that he shot, specifically a child, was still alive. 10-year-old Lyric was shot in the arm, and she's very smart. Immediately, she knew that in order to survive, she would have to play dead, and so she did. Lyric played dead for several minutes until the intruder finally left, and when he did, she got up and ran to lock the front door. She then made sure that her baby brother was okay, and right after, she called her grandmother and said, "Granny, someone came in and shot me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, and they're dead." Lyric also showed her grandmother everything that happened, and immediately her grandmother and aunt and relatives got there as fast as they could and called 911. When the police got there, they discovered this terrible scene with 3 people dead, including a 6-year-old child. Right away, an investigation began, and police didn't have a suspect description or a known motive. At first, they believed the shooter didn't break in the house and that they possibly knew the victims. There wasn't any damage inside of the house, and so things just seemed quite off. Investigators then started to look at surveillance footage in the area and put out a $5,000 reward for anyone with information obtaining to the murders. Lyric's grandmother, or Manda Lagway, Danyavia's mother, had this to say.
She's like, "Granny, my mom got shot, my dad got shot." And I'm like, what? I'm like, what happened? I just want everybody to know, my baby, she's a hero. My baby is a hero. That's a monster. You don't do that. So, these are my babies, and, hey, they ain't going nowhere.
And some other relatives and friends had this to say.
The fact that she waited until he left and pretended that she was dead. And then when he left, she locked the door, grabbed her little brother, called her grandmother.
It's devastating. My little niece but she's brave. She's very brave.
When we got the phone call, we immediately came to be comfort to each other.
For the folks who did this, y'all will get y'all justice.
Obviously, this was all a very senseless tragedy, but therein lies a very large question, and that's who did this and why? On July 1st of 2021, only one day later, a man was arrested, and his name is Xavier Dominique Davis. Now, who exactly is he, and how does he have any relation to this family? Well, for starters, he didn't know any of them personally. Xavier has a lengthy criminal record starting many, many years ago. In 2014, he was convicted of felony aggravated robbery. He had recently been released from prison after committing armed robbery again and was out acting an absolute fool. On June 7th, only a few weeks before that poor family was murdered, Xavier pulled out a gun on his girlfriend and threatened to shoot her. The reason for this was because he thought that she was cheating on him. Police had already been looking for him because of this, and on July 1st, they finally caught up to him. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault of a family member, but it doesn't end there. In fact, things are about to get even more heinous. Xavier Davis was also charged the next day on July 2nd with 3 counts of capital murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. An anonymous tip had been made to police that said that Xavier was the one responsible, and they checked his apartment out, and for sure they found a gun that matched the exact same one that was used in the crime. So, why did he do this? Well, for starters, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this wasn't a random attack. Xavier didn't randomly just choose a house and decide that he was going to strike. It was the exact opposite of that. In fact, everything was planned. A week and a few days would pass, and on July 10th of 2021, a funeral was held for Donyavia, Gregory, and Harmony. It was a good celebration of life, and there were many people there. You had family members, friends, co-workers, you name it, everyone showed up. There was one person that was at this funeral, though, that had some very dark and deep secrets. This person's name is Alexis Chanel Williams. Remember earlier how I said that Donyavia and Gregory's relationship was a bit up and down at times and they'd see other people? Well, Donyavia was having an affair with Alexis, and how long this was going on for isn't exactly known. It was at least several months, and their relationship was pretty toxic, it appears. So Donyavia decided to end it with Alexis about a week before June 30th, and Alexis started planning a way to get rid of her. Alexis decided to get into contact with her childhood friend, Xavier Davis. She began to tell him about how she needs his help to get revenge on her ex-girlfriend. Alexis wanted Xavier to go to the family's house to do some things. She told him that she wants him to rob the family and that anything he takes he can keep, and that he'll find several $1,000s in a certain spot. But there was only one catch, and that was that he had to murder the entire family in the process. Without any hesitation, Xavier immediately took Alexis up on this offer and thus began their ridiculous plan. So what happened exactly was that, for some reason, they decided on it being June 30th. Xavier had been ready to commit this crime all day, and about an hour before 10:30, closer to 9 p.m., he decided to carjack a man at gunpoint and steal his Jeep. This was only a few miles away from the apartment complex. Xavier then went to Alexis's house right after and was there until about 10:10ish when they decided that it was finally time. Xavier then left the house in the stolen Jeep, and he took his gun with him. Within a few minutes, he arrived at the apartments, put a mask on, and got ready to do what he was about to do. Xavier knocked on the door, and when Gregory opened it, he immediately ambushed him. One by one, Xavier took them out execution style after once again throwing the 1-year-old boy by his hair. This was all while he was on FaceTime with Alexis. Now, it's unclear as to whether or not she saw the family be murdered, or if she talked to them beforehand, or if Xavier was talking to her afterwards and just showed her the aftermath. But police do think it's most likely all of them. After thinking everyone was dead, Xavier stole cash, left the apartment, took the Jeep somewhere random, and burned it. Meanwhile, Lyric, that very brave 10-year-old girl who once again was shot, outsmarted this man and woman by playing dead. This led to her being able to kind of give a description of the man, and also allowed for her to protect her baby brother and call her grandmother for help. She's a true hero. But Alexis wouldn't be arrested for her crimes for about 8 months or so, when police were finally able to connect all of the dots and look through phone records to uncover what really happened. Investigators had found several messages about this hit job, and that was enough evidence to arrest Alexis on the exact same crimes as Xavier, or 3 charges of capital murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. As of today, they're both still waiting for their respective trials, which is kind of ridiculous to think about. Originally, Xavier Davis was given a $1 million bond, and this caused a lot of outrage, and rightfully so. Here's how family members reacted.
Couldn't believe they would give a bond to someone who murdered 3 people and a 6-year-old.
A bond? Seriously? You give a person that committed a triple homicide a bond? He don't need a bond. He killed 3 people. And one of them was a 6-year-old child. 6 years old. He had no mercy for a 6-year-old. I know everybody have rights. Animals have rights. And he's an animal, but the bond needs to be rejected.
There was also an article saying that he wasn't given bond a few days later, but he was. And in the case that he was able to make bond, the judge said that he would have to be on 24-hour house arrest and also have to be wearing a GPS tracking device. And also, if he did make bond, the judge said that he wasn't allowed within 200 feet of the apartments. How on earth can you give bond to a man that killed 3 people, including a 6-year-old child, wounded another who was 10, and threw a 1-year-old baby by the hair? That person is an absolute monster. Xavier Dominique Davis and Alexis Chanel Williams are 2 evil people who will hopefully either get the death penalties or rot in prison for the rest of their lives. Alexis just couldn't stand that Danyavia had gone back to Gregory and her kids, and so she started to develop a devious plan and lured someone in to help her by offering just a few $1,000s. It's absolutely disgusting to know that not only Xavier, but anyone could do something like that for such a minuscule amount of money is truly terrible. I hope that Danyavia, Gregory, and sweet little Harmony are all resting peacefully. None of them were able to really live the rest of their lives and see where it would take them. They weren't afforded that opportunity because of pure selfishness. A 10-year-old had to play dead and watch her family be murdered right in front of her for zero reason at all. I really hope that Lyric is doing okay and one day able to find some peace in this world. She's very brave and truly a hero and deserves to be known as one. But anyways, thank you for watching this episode of High Time Crime. If true crime is your thing, then please subscribe and hit the like button because that's all we do. Recently, I've started an all-exclusive Patreon, and here you're given the choice of 3 tiers. The last one allows for a Patreon-only video that's uncensored. That tier and the second tier allow you to have your name at the end of each High Time Crime video. This is just in case you want to support me a little further. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, friend.